They say you live long enough, and you'll start to wonder if the world just turned upside down while you were still tying your shoes. I'm 68 years old. My name's Marlene, but folks just call me Nana. Born and raised in Indiana, retired elementary school teacher, been a widow for 12 years. My life's never been glamorous, but it's been good. I raised 2 boys into good men, at least I thought they were. My youngest, Kevin, married Madison about 2 years ago. She's one of those people who could find something to complain about at a birthday party for puppies. And I tried. I really tried. But no matter what I did, I was never good enough for her. Now, don't get me wrong. I was excited when they announced they were expecting. I really was. I crocheted a blanket from soft tail yarn I picked up last fall. Each stitch had love in it. I also got a couple of books I used to read to my boys when they were little. You know, the kind with actual stories and morals, not those shiny iPad cartoons. I packed it all in a simple brown gift bag with blue tissue paper. Nothing flashy, just warm, thoughtful, and me. The baby shower was held at Madison's cousin's house. Big place, white tablecloths, one of those balloon arches people pay way too much money for. It felt more like a wedding than a baby shower. Everyone had on high heels and tight dresses like they were heading to brunch in L.A., not celebrating new life in Indiana. I wore my usual, a floral blouse, black slacks, flats, and a smile. Walked in, said hello, placed my gift on the table with the others. I didn't notice the way Madison was watching until later. She had that smile on, the kind that says, "Bless your heart," but not in the nice way. About an hour in, it was time for gifts. Madison sat in that big armchair, her mom and sister perched nearby, cameras ready. She tore through the mountain of pastel wrapping paper, squealing over diaper cakes, wipe warmers, monogrammed everything. When she got to mine, the room actually quieted a bit. She pulled out the handmade blanket like it was a wet towel. Didn't even unfold it. Then came the books, The Velveteen Rabbit, Goodnight Moon, and Where the Wild Things Are. Classics. She held up the bag and said, "Oh, this one must be from Nana?" I smiled, nodded proudly. She looked right at me and laughed a little, just enough to make sure everyone heard, and said, "That's sweet. But I told Kevin no, use stuff for the baby. We really want to keep things elevated this time around." I froze. My hands were in my lap, but I could feel them curl into fists. She went on opening the next gift like nothing happened, but I caught Kevin's eyes from across the room, and I swear that boy looked away like a guilty dog. I stood up quietly. No scene, no yelling. Just gathered my purse and turned to walk out. That's when Madison, with a giggle like it was nothing, said over her shoulder, "It's okay, Marlene. If it's too hard for you to keep up, you can just walk away." That hit me like a slap. Walk away? Oh, honey, I did. But not before I walked back over to that gift table and took my bag right off it. I drove home in silence that day. No radio. Just the sound of my tires humming against the pavement and my heart thumping in my ears. I placed my gift bag on the passenger seat and glanced at it a few times like it might speak to me. Like maybe I imagined the whole thing. But I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. The worst part wasn't Madison's smug little smile or the way she tossed aside my gift like it was a thrift store donation. It was Kevin, my own son, the boy I had rocked to sleep who used to bring me dandelions like they were gold coins. The one who'd cry into my lap when his dad died and whisper, "Don't leave too, Mama." He just looked away. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the tears were ready, but I swallowed them. I'm not a crier. Not because I'm cold. I'm just done wasting emotion on people who don't respect it. I set the gift bag down on my kitchen table, folded the blanket properly this time, and placed the books beside it. And then I made myself a cup of chamomile tea and opened my iPad. Now, let me say this. I don't snoop. I don't dig around for drama. But I am still on the family group chat. It's usually dry announcements, holiday plans, photos of food that look like they were taken by blind raccoons. But that night it was boiling. At first, it was just Madison's mom, Donna, posting pictures from the shower. Captions like, "She's glowing," and "So much love in this room." All the typical things. Then her sister chimed in. Jenna. OMG, Madison handled that Nana moment so well. I would have died. Then Madison herself. Madison, I tried to be gracious. But that gift? Looked like she pulled it from a basement bin. Kevin said she has money too, so ick what that was about. Then the knife, the one that landed square in my back. Kevin, yeah. I didn't expect her to bring something that. We'll probably just donate it. Donate what, Kevin? The blanket I made while watching reruns of The Golden Girls. Thinking of your baby? The books I saved all these years because they meant something. I felt heat rise in my chest. Not sadness, fire. My boys knew I wasn't rich. I lived on a fixed income, my house was paid off, and my idea of splurging was extra toppings on a Friday night pizza. But I gave what mattered. And now my son was embarrassed of me? I closed the iPad gently. I didn't throw it, tempting as it was. I just sat there, staring at the wall. And slowly I realized something. I hadn't just been dismissed that day. I'd been relieved. Relieved of duty, of value, of respect. They'd drawn the line, and I was on the outside now. So you know what? Fine. I decided I would return the favor. I wouldn't just walk away. I'd step back and take some things with me. Things they'd gotten used to. Things they never even noticed came for me. It started the next morning. I drove to the bank first thing. Not the big branch, but the small one where they still remember your name. Sat down with a sweet young teller named Diane, who always complimented my earrings. Diane, I said, I'd like to remove my name from Kevin's joint emergency account and cancel those automatic bill pays. She blinked. You sure, Ms. Marlene? That's the one set up for their rent, right? Sure am. Kevin didn't know I was covering the difference when their rent went up last year. I never made a big deal about it. That's what mothers do sometimes, quiet sacrifices. But now it was time they learned how loud silence can be. I smiled and signed the papers. And that was just day one. You'd be surprised how many things a mother provides without anyone noticing. That week, I started making a list, not out of bitterness, but clarity. Because I'd given so much of myself for so long. Even I had forgotten where my hands had been holding things up. Little things. Like paying their overdue electricity bill last winter, when Kevin called me at midnight, panicked because their heat had shut off. Or babysitting for hours when Madison suddenly remembered she had errands, only to return smelling like cocktails and Sephora. I wasn't keeping score then, but I'm keeping it now. Day 2, I made another stop, the garage. In the far corner, under a plastic sheet, sat the oak rocking chair from when Kevin was a baby. I'd refinished it myself after they moved into that new place and begged for cozy touches in the nursery. I dusted it off, wrapped it in a blanket, and slid it into the back of my SUV. Next, the handmade quilt. They'd forgotten that quilt was stitched from pieces of Kevin's baby clothes, little scraps I saved for decades. I'd spent 3 weeks patching it together for their nursery theme. They hung it like decoration, never knowing the hours I spent threading memories into fabric. I took it down carefully, folded it, and took it back home where it belonged. No note, no text, just subtraction. By Friday, I was on a roll. I unsubscribed from the diaper delivery I'd been footing, canceled the Amazon Prime account that used my card, removed my name from their Costco membership and grocery auto ship, the kind of invisible help that made their lives seamless. Oh, and those frozen casseroles in their deep freezer? Yeah, mine too. I had dropped off 2 months' worth of meals when Madison got put on modified bed rest. Chicken pot pie, lasagna, sweet potato stew. I loaded every last Tupperware into my cooler bag and drove home with my car smelling like a church potluck. The silence from them was deafening. At first, I thought maybe they hadn't noticed. But I knew better. On Saturday morning, Kevin finally called. Didn't even bother with a hello. Hey! Did something happen to the bank account? I stirred my coffee slowly. Which one, honey? The rent won. The payment bounced. I pretended to be surprised. Huh, that's strange. He paused. Did you remove your name? I sipped. I did. Another pause. Why? I smiled. Because I give gifts, Kevin, not obligations, and certainly not to people who think I shop in basement bins. Silence. Then, in a lower voice, Mom, you know Madison didn't mean. Kevin, I interrupted. You did. I heard him inhale like he was about to say something. Maybe sorry, maybe not. But I didn't wait to find out. I gently ended the call and turned off my phone. That weekend, I went through more boxes in my attic. Found things I'd set aside for the baby. My mother's old baby rattle, a copy of Goodnight Moon with Kevin's tiny teeth marks on the cover, a silver spoon engraved with his initials. I packed them away. Those things don't go to people who see love and think, not expensive enough. But here's the thing about stepping back. You suddenly see the whole picture. And from where I was now, with my hands free and heart wounded, but clear, I saw something I hadn't allowed myself to admit before. Madison never wanted a mother-in-law. She wanted a wallet with a smile. And Kevin? He wanted peace. Not fairness. Not truth. Just peace at my expense. I had always assumed, deep down, that being a good mom meant never letting go. But now I saw the flaw in that. Sometimes the best thing a mother can do is walk away on purpose and let the silence speak for her. And oh, it would speak. Because Madison's due date was just around the corner, and she had no idea just how many things were missing until the baby arrived. And that's when everything began to unravel. They say labor makes you vulnerable, strips everything down to the rawest parts of who you are. I wouldn't know. I had Kevin naturally, no epidural, in a modest county hospital room where my mother held my hand and cried when she first heard him cry. Madison had chosen something else entirely. Private suite, designer robes, a birthing photographer, a push playlist curated by her doula, and, of course, a social media post queued up to go live when the baby arrived. But for all that control, one thing slipped through her fingers. Me. Because when the due date came, I didn't show up. Not at the hospital. Not in the group chat. Not even on the emergency contact list, because I'd quietly asked to be removed from it 2 weeks prior. I wasn't being cruel. I was being clear. See, they had dismissed me as cheap, outdated, overbearing. I believed them. So I stepped into that role completely, outdated and gone. Madison's mother, Sharon, was there though, in full glory, hovering, controlling, shouting at nurses like she owned the place. Kevin called me from the hallway during a lull in contractions, whispering like a teenager sneaking a phone call past curfew. "Mom, she's asking where you are." I was folding laundry. "Come." She told me to walk away, remember? She didn't mean. She did, I said flatly. And you backed her. Silence. Then a sigh that sounded more tired than angry. "I didn't think you'd really leave us, Mom." I paused, my hand gripping one of Kevin's old baby onesies I had pulled from a bin. "I didn't think you'd forget who raised you." He didn't answer. He just ended the call. Later, I heard from a nurse friend at the hospital. Madison had a meltdown in the room when she realized no one had brought the quilt for newborn photos. She'd told everyone it was a family heirloom that made the nursery special. Only now it was just a bear crib. The rocking chair was gone, too, and the swaddles I'd handmade from organic cotton, replaced by mass-market bundles from Sharon's favorite boutique. And that freezer full of food they were counting on post-birth? Empty, because the casseroles were in mine. A week after the birth, I got a card in the mail. Handwritten. From Kevin. It was short. "Mom, you were right. About everything. I'm sorry I let it get this far. I see it now. And I miss you. Please come meet your granddaughter. Love. Kevin." There was no mention of Madison. No photo. Just his words, shaky but honest. I didn't reply. Not right away. Instead, I took my time. Spent that evening rocking slowly in the chair that should have been in their nursery. I held that old baby rattle in one hand and the letter in the other, letting the weight of everything settle. They had expected me to come running back, that the birth of a baby would erase months of disrespect. But I wasn't the same woman they had dismissed at the baby shower. I was someone who had learned. And as much as I loved my son and would come to love that baby, I wasn't going to step back into a space where I was only valued when needed. They would have to rebuild that bridge plank by plank. The first test was coming fast, because a week later they invited me to the baby's sip and see celebration. And let's just say, I showed up, but not the way they expected. I didn't go to the sip and see to cause a scene. I went to be seen. There's a difference. By then, word had already gotten around town, especially among the women in my quilting circle and the retired teachers club I belonged to. People asked how Madison was doing, whether I was helping with the baby, and I'd just smile politely and say, "We're giving each other space." You'd be surprised how fast silence speaks, louder than stories. So when the glossy invitation arrived in the mail, a custom-printed card with baby pink foiling and a floral border, I sat with it for a long moment. No personal note. No apology. Just a standard, "You're invited to meet baby Scarlett" at Sharon's lake house. Catered, of course. RSVP to Sharon. Not Madison. Not Kevin. I RSVP'd, all right, but not with a yes or no. I just wrote, "You'll see me when you see me." And I meant it. When the day came, I didn't bring a gift. I didn't wear anything expensive. No attempt at showboating. Just a deep forest green dress, my old pearls, and the same pair of low heels I wore to Kevin's high school graduation. I brought my dignity, not a price tag. And I didn't walk in alone. Beside me was June, my neighbor of over 20 years. Widowed like me. Fierce as they come. She had watched Kevin grow up from diapers to driver's ed. And she always said, "If that boy forgets who stood in his corner, he'll learn when the wind shifts." Well, the wind had shifted. June carried a tray of her signature pecan pie bars, the kind Kevin used to sneak before dinner. I carried nothing, not even a purse. We arrived 15 minutes late, just enough to be noticed. The room went quiet when we stepped in. There were white balloons tied in perfect arcs, a charcuterie spread longer than my kitchen counter, and a table heaving with designer-wrapped gifts stacked like a Macy's window display. Madison stood in front of it all, holding the baby like a prop. Sharon was mid-conversation when she spotted me. Her smile froze. "Oh, you came." "I did," I said, stepping forward. I heard this was about seeing the baby, not comparing receipts. Kevin, standing near the window, looked like someone had poured relief straight into his bones. He practically deflated. He came over quickly, eyes rimmed with exhaustion and guilt. "Mom," he said, "thanks for coming." I gave him a polite nod, then turned to the bassinet beside Madison. There she was, Scarlett. Small, soft, with the same half-round Kevin had when he slept as a baby. My heart twinged before I could stop it. I leaned over, careful not to touch. Just looked. "She's beautiful," I said quietly, "even if she'll never know what it feels like to be wrapped in her grandmother's quilt." Madison shifted uncomfortably. "We didn't know how to reach you. You found a way to send the invite." Kevin cleared his throat, gently stepping between us. "Madison, maybe." But before he could say more, Sharon chimed in. Loud. "Some people just hold on to bitterness, I suppose. Even around a baby." I smiled. Real slow. "No, Sharon. Some people just remember when they were told to walk away and finally believed it." Gasps. A few, especially from the women near the punch bowl. But I wasn't done. I turned to the room and, in the clearest voice I could muster, said, "I'm here because that's my granddaughter. Not because I'm interested in winning some silent contest between grandmothers. I don't need to prove my worth with monogrammed bibs or buttercream cupcakes. I just needed to see that she was real, that she was safe, and that she knew, somewhere deep in her bones, that there's a part of her that came from a woman who's been through storms and never once bowed to the wind." No one said a word. Even the baby stopped fussing. And then I left. Just like that. No drama. No door slam. Just me and June walking back to the car, calm as lake water. That night, I got another message from Kevin. Just one line. "We're coming to your house next Sunday. Just us. I want her to know her grandmother." They pulled up right at 2:00. On the dot. Madison never did like being late or unannounced, so I knew this visit wasn't spontaneous. It was rehearsed, polished, probably debated over several cups of oat milk lattes and baby monitor checks. Still, I opened the door like I didn't know they were coming, like I hadn't vacuumed the entryway twice or brewed a fresh pot of tea that morning, just in case. Kevin stepped in first, holding Scarlett's carrier like it was made of glass. His face looked different. Older, or maybe just heavier, like he'd been carrying things for too long that he didn't know how to set down. "Mom," he said, nodding. "Thanks for having us." I nodded back. "You asked to come. I didn't stop you." Behind him, Madison looked like she'd swallowed a peach pit. Tense and too sweet, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We won't stay long," she said quickly. "Just thought after the sip and see maybe it's time." "Time for what? An apology? A ceasefire? A photo op?" I didn't ask. Instead, I motioned to the couch. "Put the baby down if you want. Or keep her close. I won't bite." Kevin smiled faintly and set the carrier gently on the rug near the coffee table. Scarlett stirred but didn't cry. Just blinked in that slow, curious way babies do when the light changes. "House smells like cinnamon," Madison said, glancing around. "Homie, I was baking earlier. Apple crumble. Thought about offering you some. Then again, I wasn't sure if it was cheap enough." Her face flushed just for a second, but it was there. A flicker of shame. Kevin cleared his throat, rubbing the back of his neck. "Look, Mom," he began. "Madison and we've had a lot of talks. About the shower. About what happened. And honestly, I should have stepped in sooner. That whole thing was wrong. We were wrong." His words were careful, measured, like a man walking barefoot through glass. Madison shifted. "I was hormonal. I was overwhelmed. I let people influence me. Sharon mostly." I raised an eyebrow. I noticed her fingerprints all over that event. She exhaled. "I didn't mean to make you feel small, or like you weren't welcome." "You didn't make me feel that way, Madison. You said it, out loud. You told me to walk away. That wasn't a miscommunication. That was clarity." Silence hung for a beat too long. Kevin looked down, then back at me. "We wanted to ask if you'd reconsider making the quilt." Madison added, "It's not just a gift anymore. It's a part of her story, a part of where she comes from." I studied them both. Really looked. Noticed how Kevin leaned slightly forward, the way he did when he used to beg me to stay 5 more minutes at bedtime. Noticed how Madison's eyes were rimmed red. Not from tears. Not yet, but from something heavier. Regret, maybe. I walked over to the hallway closet and opened the door. From the top shelf, I pulled down a plastic bag. Inside was the quilt. Half finished, the thread still trailing like open-ended thoughts. The backing fabric folded, but not stitched. I hadn't touched it since that night, but I hadn't thrown it away either. I laid it gently on the table. The colors were soft, cream, rose, a little lavender, with one square stitched with tiny embroidered initials. "S.A.?" Madison gasped. Kevin touched the edge like it might disappear. "You started it." "I never stopped loving her," I said quietly. "I just stopped chasing people who made me feel like I had to prove it." They both looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time in a long while I saw the flicker of something real. Gratitude. Not entitlement. Respect. Not obligation. I didn't give them the quilt that day. I told them I'd finish it on my own time. No deadline. No pressure. Just the way love should be sewn, deliberately, stitch by stitch. And when they left, Kevin hugged me. A real hug. The kind he used to give when he scraped his knee, and I was the only one who could fix it. Madison said thank you. Not just for the quilt, but for not slamming the door when I had every reason to. That night, I lit a candle in the quiet, sat at the sewing machine with a mug of warm cider, ran my fingers over the fabric like it was memory itself, and started sewing again. Not for them. Not for show. For her. Scarlett. The little girl who would one day know that her grandmother didn't walk away. She just waited until they finally saw her worth.